Anthem is one of this year's most highly anticipated releases. There is a lot of excitement around this game, and rightfully so. It's not all that often we see a major studio release something new. I mean, look at most of last year's biggest games. They're pretty much all sequels, and with a new game comes hope and promise. Could this be the game that completely destroys my life? There's a possibility, but first, there's some questions and concerns. Is the story gonna suck? Can I play this game if I have no friends? Will it be filled with predatory microtransactions? Can I make love to these people? Well, you've got questions and I've got answers, because here today I'll be going over the 10 things you absolutely need to know about Anthem. And yes, I had to put absolutely in there because everyone's already made the 10 things that you need to know. It's just a freaking list video. I gotta set myself apart. First, let's start off with the basics of the game, which is the combat. This is a third-person action game with a heavy emphasis on mobility. You're gonna be flying around the world looking for enemies to shoot, punch in the face, or obliterate with your skills. Because yes, this isn't just a game about shooting, there's a whole lot of abilities at your disposal. Large group of weak enemies, bust out some AoE. One big tough guy, aim for those crit spots. A whole bunch of baddies, try using your ultimate, or maybe set up some devastating combos with your friends. And depending on your playstyle, you can choose from one of the game's 4 classes known as Javelins. Javelins are these exosuits for your pilot that each have their own unique abilities, skills, and ultimates. First off, there's the Ranger, the very first suit that you get in the game, and it's actually the most versatile with a focus on single target damage. Has access to a variety of grenades, a shock mace, and an ultimate that deals precise damage across a wide swath of the battlefield. Then we've got the Colossus, a tank designed to take out groups of enemies. It's the only Javelin that can use heavy weaponry while also having access to tons of AoE abilities, a shield, and the devastating Siege Cannon ultimate. The Interceptor is a fast, nimble Javelin that hops around evading attacks, letting you get in close to inflict damage and weaken enemies with various assault and strike abilities. Its ultimate, the Assassin's Blade, supercharges the Interceptor's melee attack, letting you carve through enemies with ease. And then finally there is the Storm, the spell slinger of Anthem. Using magical elemental seals, the Storm floats above the battlefield, unleashing devastating damage on enemies below. Ice lances, fiery strikes, and the powerful elemental Storm ultimate are just a few of the tools at the Storm's disposal. It's also important to note that the Javelins are separate from your pilot. Your pilot always stays the same. The Javelins are just the suits that you wear, so you can swap between them at any point. You're not just stuck with one Javelin forever, which is good because if one of them sucks, I'm gonna want to change to whatever's overpowered. Just being honest here. Next up, I want to talk about the open world. This game takes place on a massive, seamless open world with loads of verticality. So we've got this big space to explore without any loading screens. Now, what you'll be doing here is exploring around, looking for enemies to shoot, finding quests, points of interest, taking part in events and world bosses. There's also dungeons known as strongholds. Also, the open world will have you collecting resources, finding these various loot chests, and codexes to expand on the game's story. There's also a day-night cycle and a dynamic weather system in the game as well. This is going to be a games as a service, which means that over time they're going to continue to add to the world, unlocking new areas, places to explore, and basically all of the things that we just talked about. It's important to note as well that this is very much so a co-op focused game. Now, you can play through a lot of the main storyline solo, progressing the world of Anthem and learning about the backstory, but most of the later content is going to require groups to play. We're talking about the dungeons that are called strongholds, things like these large, difficult world bosses and events, challenge modes. A lot of what you're going to be doing will be with other people. So if you're someone who doesn't have a lot of friends to play with, well, don't worry, because there is a matchmaking system. The game has a 4-player drop-in, drop-out co-op system. It's going to feature enemy scaling, dynamic damage dealing, so that basically it doesn't matter if you're super powerful and your friends really suck, you can still play together, but just keep reminding them that they suck. And then, of course, again, there's that combo system with these primers and detonators. You can have different builds that synergize with your friends. There is a lot playing into the cooperative aspect of this game. So if you were hoping that Anthem was just a game you can no-life solo by yourself, you'll be missing out on a lot of what Anthem has to offer. But again, there is a single player story. Let's talk about it. We've got a fully fleshed out and voice acted single player storyline, what they're calling Our World, My Story. Our World is all of the open world stuff that you'll be doing with friends, the dungeons, the bosses, the events, collecting all the loot. That's Our World, but My Story is that single player narrative that takes place primarily in the location known as Fort Tarsus. This is the solo instanced zone in the game where you'll be walking around, talking with NPCs, picking up new quests, and progressing your personal story. Now, they did say specifically, I know this is a BioWare game and a lot of you like making love in these games, but unfortunately enough, there are no romance options. So if you see someone who you think's cute, I'm sorry, that's about as far as it's gonna go. Now let's talk about the end game. This is gonna play a major role in Anthem. The end game, known as the Elder Game, is gonna consist of a few major aspects. First, there are the strongholds, which are these challenging group dungeons with various sections, activities to complete, and a big bad end boss. There's also legendary contracts, which are basically gonna be a lot of the things that you did while leveling up, but at a geared up mode, rewarding better stuff as a result. We've also got things like the world events and bosses, and all of this within the various difficulties. There are going to be 6 difficulties in the game at launch, going from easy, normal, hard to Grandmaster 1, 2, and 3. Now, most of the footage that we've seen so far has been on the easier of the difficulties, so we're going to have to see just how hard Grandmaster is. And why are you doing all of these endgame activities? Well, it's all about the loot. Yes, this is a loot-focused game. We've got item levels, 6 different tiers of rarities, and random rolled inscriptions, which works as these additional benefits to any gear that you find. Drops will come from a variety of sources, including enemies, challenge rewards, and crafting. Basically, the harder the challenge, the better the loot that you're likely to get. The loot drops will be instant, so you don't gotta worry about any of your shitty friends picking up something that you rightfully deserve. And also, unfortunately enough, they've said there is no trading in this game. So if you get that badass weapon that your friend Billy wanted, well, Billy's just gonna have to hold his horses until it drops for him. I don't love that there's no trading in this game. They're basically doing it to extend the life of the loot grind aspect. I don't know, I mean, we could complain about it a bunch. Maybe they'd change it, but I'm not counting on it. And all of this different loot that drops is gonna play into the loadout system. There will be tons of different types of builds that you can make with the different pieces of equipment depending on your playstyle. Do you wanna focus on your abilities, reducing their cooldowns and increasing their effectiveness? You wanna make your melee stronger, increase your shields, allow yourself to hover for longer, or maybe you just want your weapons to hit much harder. So many different pieces of gear with these different affixes and things to affect the way that you play, your playstyle. It's really gonna be a min-maxer's and builder's dream. That's at least that's what they're saying. And yes, the game will have a gear score so you can boast to all of your friends. Hey guys, look, I've got no life, but check out that number, it's pretty high, huh? Another thing that people love in these games is customization, and there is going to be plenty. You can customize the look of your pilot as well as your javelin. There's tons of customization options, from the color, the pattern, and even the material type of your javelin suit. And then also there are the loadouts. There's 5 equipment slots for every javelin, which include 2 different types of weapons and 3 different gear pieces, which are essentially the javelin abilities. Now let's talk about microtransactions. There are none. I'm just kidding. Come on. It's an EA game. Of course there are microtransactions, but there are no loot boxes and no randomization. They're also promising there should be no season pass. The microtransactions are gonna come in the form of purchasing cosmetics. So all that customization that I just talked about, changing how your javelin looks, yeah, you're gonna be able to buy some of the sweet things. Some people aren't gonna love that, but it's there. There are microtransactions, but again, the good news is they're promising it is purely cosmetic. Post-launch, of course, we're gonna be getting new content they'll be adding to the game and the story and all of that. The story DLC has been promised to be completely free. However, they are gonna be releasing new javelins, as well as extensions to the game world, as well as new features, and you can bet your ass you're probably gonna have to pay for those. And the final thing I wanna let you guys know is that the game will not have PvP. This is strictly a PvE co-op loot game. You go out there, you fight enemies, you do these challenges, you get some cool loot to face harder challenges and do it over and over again. You're not gonna be fighting other players, you're not gonna be entering this arena, at least at launch. They made the distinction to say no PvP at launch, so maybe that means at some point in the future it's something they'll consider adding, but for the foreseeable future, this is not a PvP game, it is a loot grinding game. And you know what? I freaking love loot games, and I cannot wait for Anthem. I am incredibly excited. Everything they've shown, the gameplay that I've seen, and the time that I've played it, I can't talk about it. I can't talk about that. NDA? I think, yeah, NDA. Not too long ago, at the end of December, there was actually this super cool early preview event where they flew out a bunch of influencers. And they forgot all about me? I don't understand. Did you see my last video on Anthem? That video was freaking good, okay? I can't say this all the time, but that video was a good video. I'm so freaking so upset that I didn't get invited to the Anthem event, but it's okay. It's okay, because there's more coming in the future. I don't even know if I can talk about this. I'm gonna get fucking banned. Real impressive, bro. I'm doing a great job.
NANI?!